Lake Charles, Louisiana, a city with rich history and indomitable spirit. But behind the charm of its southern hospitality lies a community grappling with the challenges of recovery, resilience, and renewal. Once devastated by natural disasters, the city now faces an opportunity to reimagine its future. A local attorney, a proven advocate, and now a candidate for mayor, Simien is no stranger to Lake Charles. He was born and raised here. He spent decades fighting for justice and equitable growth for all of its citizens. Now he's campaigning on a bold vision, one that promises to transform this city into a beacon of opportunity for generations to come. But can one man's vision overcome the obstacles of bureaucracy, limited resources, and a city divided by its past? Today, we dive deep into Marshall Simien's campaign and uncover what's at stake in this pivotal race for the future of Lake Charles. A city at a crossroads and a leader promising change. This is Envisioning Lake Charles.
Hey, Don.
Hey, what's going on, Marshall? How you doing?
I'm doing good, man.
Good to see you as always.
And it's good to sit and talk with you, my brother.
Always, man. So this is Envision Lake Charles, man.
Yes,
So
sharing
we're
the
gonna-
vision.
Yeah, we're going to get into some deep topics about the city, the recovery, the parish, and everything that we have going on. So, you know, this beautiful city, Lake Charles.
Yes.
You're born and raised.
Yep.
Local native. So tell me, before we dive into everything, what does Lake Charles mean to you?
I think Lake Charles, we used to call it the Lake City when I was coming up because we just had this water that I thought was always peaceful and calming. I thought it defined us. So the Lake Charles area means, hey, let's roll the Lake City.
That's it. I
There's
love it.
There's a vibe to the city.
That's
you know?
it. I love it. That's
Yeah.
the vibe. So real quick, while we are sitting here, we're talking about some stuff, and it's going to be focused mostly on you.
Okay.
So tell me, who is this guy?
This is me, Marshall Simien, standing right here on the northern part of Lake Charles. Came and got an interview about what did I see, and I said Lake Charles strong because, like I said, there's a vibe to the city that makes it stronger than a lot of other places.
So this phrase has been tossed around for years, particularly during 2020 when we were hit with Hurricane Laura.
Yes.
So that Lake Charles strong mantra means what to you?
Well, back then, this was in 2016. I had sat on the city council. We had gone through Hurricane Rita. So usually when places have these events in adversity, they say that place strong. So I was thinking that, well, Rita's a one-time, once-in-a-lifetime event. So I was talking about what do we need to do to prepare for the next time this comes, which I thought would be another generation. Little did I know that 4 years later that would happen again.
Yeah. So it's almost like we're stricken to have these events more frequently now.
Yeah, and it's better to presume that we will. You know, I'd rather be prepared and not have it happen than not be prepared and then it happens.
Exactly. And going forward with that, we got a lot to talk about, but let's talk about the preparedness. So in 2016, when we were hit, not 2016, I'm sorry, but in the previous times when we were hit with
2005.
2005, we were hit with a hurricane, major hurricane.
Two of them. Yeah.
Two of them. What were some of the things that were brought forth to say, hey, we need to be prepared if this event happens again? What did you say at that moment in the city?
Well, at the time, economically, I thought Lake Charles had a very strong economy, but it hadn't been fully activated. So the first thing when the hurricanes hit, we had to go. I remember Randy Roach and I, we took a trip to Baton Rouge to talk to the division administration and tell the state, look, we need some help here. But Katrina had hit New Orleans too. So obviously that was a big loss of human life. So that took priority. So we just told them, don't forget about us. We'll be back. We took another trip to Washington, D.C. and met with I think Senator Mary Landrieu put us in touch with the head of the Senate Finance Committee. And we told them the same thing. We'll be back. Don't forget about us. So we came back here and said, you know, we can't just wait on the federal government to bail us out on these things. So we went to our citizens and did a $90 million bond issue to get a lot of projects going that was jump started, but they were actually seeds that we needed to plant to get ahead of this recovery.
And you know what's unique about this city and everything that it's been through, it always seems to bounce back. But there's a caveat to that.
Yeah, this one we didn't bounce back like we should, because some of the things that I was talking about in 16 are still needed to be put in place for us going forward.
Yeah, and shed a little light on what were some of the comparisons that you can say from 2016 when you were speaking about it, what we need to do in preparedness and things of that nature, to 2020, what you saw that we didn't do, and how did that affect us as a city?
Well, I think we had some vulnerabilities, Donnie. You know, we had, and you're starting to see it now, an imbalance of home ownership.
Correct.
And when these kind of things hit, the people that are renting, they're in a situation where they don't have any control over their housing options. And the owners of the housing, they have to start thinking about, well, do I invest back into this housing for other people, or do I have to take care of the place where I lay my head? And that has resulted in a loss of population. Now, we saw a loss of population, but it came back. But we had those vulnerabilities. We hit, thank goodness 2020 was a wind hurricane, not a flood hurricane, because then you get caught in the insurance ping pong issue of, well, this is a flood event, not a wind event. And so we needed to get back on trying to make sure that we had good drainage options so that we can facilitate a lot of things. And then our economy, you know, we have, I mean, in 16, I had gotten off the city council. We had the strongest economy in the United States. We lost a lot of people. We lost some momentum, and we're still in position to do that again. But we need to leverage that to make sure that we don't have to depend on Washington, D.C. or Baton Rouge to get us back on our feet when these things hit. Because this recovery, we're almost 5 years out now. And I know a lot of people, there's been a lot of things published to people, oh, look at this, look at that. But if you drive off the grid in some areas, you'll see some places look the exact same way they did on August 27, 2020.
Yeah, man, and it is a sad sight. You know, we try so hard to beautify the city and show all these new projects and things of that nature, but we still are ways away from being back where we need to be.
You know, the crazy thing about it is, this place is ready. I mean, I always say it, and you hear me say it over and over again, because this is my true belief. Lake Charles is an 8-cylinder engine. It's running up to at least 4. If we ever crank this thing up and see what it can do, you'd be surprised what this city can do and become.
Yeah, and that's the aid. You know, you talk to people around the city, it's almost like, what are we missing? You know, we know we have the capabilities, we know that we have the potential, but what are we truly missing? What do you think the city is missing right now?
We're missing leadership. We're missing the leadership that has a vision for the city. Now, I mean, you look around now, there's a lot of money that's coming into the city. And you're seeing a lot of things, but there's no rhyme or reason to what's happening. I give you an example. In 2005, when Hurricane Rita hit, by 2006, we had passed the $90 million bond issue.
Wow.
But we had projects that were going to be seed projects. For instance, where the Lake Charles City Court is. Okay. That was the old Sears Automotive building. That was hampering development of that area. So we put the city court there. That's the nicest city court in this whole area. And look at now, you have Erdace, you have the Woodring Apartments, you have all this development that came up around it. So that seat was doing well. Yeah. You look at where the transit center is. That used to be an old DMV building that was closed full of asbestos. We put a beautiful transit center there, put a fountain to take the stigma off of public transportation, put the bus bar and everything else. And now the Diocese of Lake Charles is located there. Yeah. You've got law firms, accounting, all these kind of things that came in
that area, yeah.
Even down here, Riverside Park. You know, we put Riverside Park to let people know that, look, the northern part of Lake Charles is the most historic, but it's the most blessed area because it has this natural beauty that needs to be preserved, enhanced, and encouraged.
So it's almost like a natural painting, you know. Just
so we've got all these, we did that, but now you're seeing things kind of just falling anyway. You know, we're putting a children's museum on the lakefront on prime real estate. And but at the same time, we just heard an announcement that Lafayette is getting the Buc-ee's. So I asked this to our people. In the last 3 years, how many times have you gone to a children's museum then let's turn that around. Say in the last year, how many times have you gone to a Buc-ee's? You know.
Yeah, a huge it's a huge difference with that. And so we're gonna get into all those things a little later. But I want to ask a question. With you and your political career and your professional career, everyone always asks that question: who is Marshall Simien?
Yeah.
But we really want to know.
Okay.
For sure, going into this next mayoral campaign in 2025, who are you?
I'm a native of Lake Charles. I mean, I grew up on Adams Street in north part of Lake Charles. I went to Cherry Street before they bused us over to Ross Steep. Went to Molo, graduated from Washington High. And then I graduated from McNeese in government. And that's a big distinction because it's interesting because that's not politics. That's how government is supposed to work, take care of people. Then from there, I went on to law school at LSU. After LSU, I moved to New Orleans because I went work clerk for a judge. People may know her name is Burnett Johnson. She just retired as the Chief Justice of the Louisiana Supreme Court. I also became a partner in a major law firm in New Orleans, Middleburg, Riddle, and Gianna, handling some pretty significant cases. But then I'm from here. My father became ill, so I moved back to Lake Charles, dropped everything and moved back because family is important.
Correct.
But when I came back down there, I just saw the city a whole different way. I said, wow, we have so much to work with, and there's so many other people doing so much more with less. So when I was starting my law firm, the Port of Lake Charles it was mismanaged, so the governor dissolved that board, and I was asked to serve on the board. And I served on the board.
And that was a governor-appointed position,
I was
correct?
Governor Kathleen Blanco appointed me.
Okay.
And I told him I could do about 2 years on there, and that was supposed to be to resurrect the port, because what was happening was the labor at the port, the longshoremen, their benefits were tied to how many hours they worked, so they were having to subsidize bringing cargoes in. You can't do that. So we said, well, let's activate the assets that the port has. The port dredges the ship channel, so they throw mud everywhere, but all these mud banks turned out to be valuable property. So we built LaBerge on what was a mud bank, and now you've got the gold nugget. We went to a port conference in San Diego and met with the people at Semper LNG, and they were trying to explain what they were trying to do, and we agreed with them. So we signed an agreement there. Now you've got Cameron LNG. You've got about $60 more billion worth of projects that's about to come through the pipeline now after this election. So in those 2 years, we built two of the most transformational industries here. After that, my city councilman, Reverend Sam Talbot, said that he was being called back to the pulpit, so he asked me to consider running for his seat. And I'm thinking, man, that's tall grass, and I don't know. But like anything else, I didn't know anything about water when I first got on the port, but they wanted me on there because I understood business. So I went and looked at the whole district that he had. You know, District A is the lakefront, the downtown area, the northern part of Lake Charles, the I-10 corridor, the 171 corridor. So that's two federal highways. And all this water. And being on the port, I recognized the value of water, so I ran for it and won. And I had all these plans, and then we got sworn in July 2005. Katrina hit New Orleans in August, and then Rita hit here in September. So all that went out the window. So we went into, let's get people back into their homes. Let's protect the places where they lay their head, raise their kids, make their memories. But let's also be strategic about building something that's going to be sustainable. So we passed a $90 million bond issue. Well, I did 2 terms on the city council. From coming in and dealing with all that devastation, by the time I got off the city council in 2013, Lake Charles had the strongest economy in the United States. Can you believe that?
Yeah, I can.
Even when there was a economic depression in 2008, it didn't affect us at all because we were blowing and going. So that's when I served on the port. I saw the scope and breadth of Southwest Louisiana, and then I got a chance to prove it on the city council because I ran District 8 like it was his own city.
Yeah, and that's great. And you know, you have an impeccable resume, and everything is peachy and cherry.
Yeah.
But let's get into some real stuff.
Okay.
Let's talk about your tenure on the city council.
Okay.
All right. Let's talk about some of the tough things that you had to deal with, tough situations, i.e., the horse situation. Everyone is always going to ask about that, and I think it's fair for them to want to know, even because there's so many speculations. So right now, Give us the rundown of what really happened, and how do you move forward on learning from that experience to make sure that that issue or any other similar issue doesn't happen again?
Well, the horse situation was, there was a lot of horses that were penned in the areas around in the district. We were doing hurricane recovery issues. We had these bond projects, so that was my predominant focus. But I was steady getting complaints about people riding their horses, what they were doing in the streets or going through people's yards and stuff like that. And I just said I've got bigger fish to fry than that. But when people complain, I am the elected representative, so I have to address those things. So I went and talked to some representatives who had horses, and they were like, "Marshall, we've been here. You need to just go back and do your thing." It's fine. I'm doing my thing, but the complaints continued, and it really continued. So at one point, we just said, we're going to have to address this some kind of way. So we had one of the gentlemen that owned the horses. He went and sent his pen guy to look at some places and realized that this is more bigger than what we thought. But still, at that point, I'm thinking bond issues.
Yeah.
But we did one thing. We brought Mid-City Baseball to the MLK Center. That had never been done before. So we had the opening day. These children in their brand new uniforms, you could see the pride and everything else. They started playing. Well, there was a T-ball field that was by the Entergy right away. And there was one child that was in mid-center field, and he was just laying on the ground. And, everybody was saying, "Get up, you got to get up." But my kids played T-ball. They were more fascinated with the orange dirt than playing ball,
Right.
But when the inning ended, everybody came in. The kids stayed out there. The coach went out there to get him, and then he waved over, and we ran out there and with the mother. And this child was in the fetal position on the ground, just bawling, boo-hooing.
Wow.
And they had horse flies all over him.
Wow.
And Donnie, when sometimes people can look you in the eye.
Yeah.
Me and this child, we locked eyes. And when people can peer into your soul. At that point, I saw the terror in this child, and I started thinking about this. I've got children, and this shouldn't happen like this. So, at that point, I said, maybe I'm approaching this the wrong way.
Yeah.
So the property was not owned by the people that were housing the horses. That was owned by Entergy. Entergy apparently had them out there because that took care of their grass cutting obligations. So I went and talked to the property people at Entergy and said, "Look, you guys have to get you have to get some of these things under control." And they basically said, "Look, you need to just go back and be a councilman."
Wow.
Well, I guess they didn't realize what I do for a living. I'm a lawyer. So I go open up the book of ordinances for the city. And guess what? You can raise pigs, chickens, cows, everything in the city, but you have certain requirements. So we just started enforcing those requirements. And some kind of way, I think Entergy and some of the people that own their horses had some sort of conversation. Because next thing you know, they're being removed. Now, of course, since I instigate all this, it all starts with me.
It falls on you, correct.
So I was back for running for city council again, and all this came up with, "Marshall, you did this to the horse, you did that to the horseman." And I will tell you, Donnie, I didn't win that election, and it's a shame because all the stuff that we were working on, it stopped.
Okay.
This community still looks like it did the day when I got off. And I'm not saying that it was all about me, but I was, I can run for office and deal with things, but when you do that, your family is involved, your friends are involved.
Everything is open.
And the things that happened out of that really affected a lot of people in my family.
Yeah.
And at that point, I was done. I said, that's it. I'm done with this. But my dad, the person that I moved back for, he passed away in 2020, but he was my rock. You're most vulnerable to us. I mean, that's the only way you can do that. You have to care about us. But he said, but if you stop caring about us, guess who wins? And at that point, I was able to put that behind me. I said, you know what? Okay, I will take whatever bullets I need to because I'm going to protect this community.
Yeah.
I'm definitely going to protect that child because I can't even explain to you what happened. But looking at a child in terror like that, it hit me to my core, Donnie, and that's about who I am.
Yeah. Wow, man, that's very touching. I mean, the amount of pressure that I'm sure it must have took to make that decision, make those tough decisions were great. So we got a lot more to cover. This is the first segment of Envision Lake Charles, so we're gonna come back in another section. We're gonna get deep into some more of these hot topics with Marshall Simien. So,
Sure.
Be right back.